Good afternoon. Well, I'm finally getting around to do a 100-hour review of this FAE BL0 EX, and it's the 75 centimeter version of this mulcher. It actually has about 150 hours on it, but you get the idea. So first I'll just do a quick walk around to show how it has held up so far, and then I'll throw the camera in the cab of the machine and kind of just give my thoughts on it. So as you can see, it does not look very new anymore, even though it's a 2025. This was from a barbed wire fence, probably the first hour I had it. I have hit a lot of stuff with this thing so far. And it has held up well. The only real, damage is this. You can probably barely even see it right there. That was from a 10-foot stick of rebar, and it kind of dented this edge. So that's how it's holding up. I think it's holding up really well, I would say, given the amount of use that it's had. And I guess one thing to touch on, these are the factory teeth. As you can see, they're very blunt at this point. There's 13 of them, I believe. But these have about 150 hours and rocky. I've hit some rocks with them. I mean, not crazy rocky overall, but I've definitely ran them in rock and sand, and I think they've held up well for what they are. They're probably due to, I should probably switch them out soon. And these shoes, paint's worn off, but they're holding up really well. You can adjust this deflector. I have it so it's a little finer mulch right now. There's another hole to open it up some more, but it already throws things plenty bad the way it is, so I try to rein it in a little bit. This thumb saddle I think has held up pretty well. This part of it is tough. This, not so much. I have bent these little, I mean it's only 3/16 plate or 1/4 inch, and then this plate comes off actually, so this part of it's kind of light duty, but it's fine as long as this was actually moving some rocks, so go figure. I bent it on that. But with logs and whatnot, as long as you have the log against this part, I think it's plenty solid. One thing I guess to note while I'm doing the walk around, if you look in between this bracket, this piece is factory from FAE. This was added on to fit this machine, but this bracket, I had to put washers in there and grind them down to make this fit tight, because otherwise, as this got tightened up, it kind of bowed the top of this, if that makes sense, which that's more on FAE. I added this, just for extra structure. But this bracket, just to keep in mind, you may have to put some washers or spacers in there. I did, and now no problems, but it did take a little bit of fine tuning. I think that's about really all there is to look at on the outside of this. Just two grease zerks, easy to get to and well protected. So I'll throw this in the machine and kind of give you my thoughts on it.